Hi, it's Ike from Groovy Entertainment. Today we have a book on tape to play for you. Today book is Peter Cottontail for 1993, so let's get started.
Hi, boys and girls. I'm your Peter Pan storyteller, and when you hear this sound, turn the page. If it were up to Peter, he'd have Easter 365 days a year. 365 days of happiness, love, and good cheer. But the calendar gave him only one day to do his thing, to announce this holiday that comes only in spring. Now, Peter's role is important, important indeed, for what he performs answers a special need. It's Peter's job, a job well earned, to announce the coming of Easter, as well we've learned. But without Peter, so the story goes, we'd be looking for eggs in March or May, I suppose. Well, this story, done in somewhat of a rhyme, happened years ago at some far-off place at another time. As a matter of fact, it was the very first year that Peter was to announce that Easter was here. He was nervous, as well you'd expect, but Peter being Peter, that was hard to detect. Let's face it, it was a responsibility of quite some size. The world would be looking at him with some critical eyes. He'd spend his nights and spend his days practicing at least a million ways of shouting and yelling the best way to say, "Easter is coming, it's on its way." It was about the 30th day of rehearsal that Peter lost his voice. Strictly by accident, certainly not by choice. Now, laryngitis is pretty rough. It makes talking, let alone shouting, mighty tough. What was Peter supposed to do? He just started his job, and now he was almost through. But we're talking about Peter Cottontail. This bunny doesn't know what it means to fail. He asked around and got some advice. Some important, some just nice. The bees and the bears recommended honey. The deer suggested gargling with salt. Everyone was being overly helpful. Helpful to a fault. It was the owl who figured it out, who figured what to do. Let all the other animals help with Peter's debut. We'll all make unique noises, voices of a once-a-year sound. The world will recognize the difference, whether moose, deer, or hound. But Peter being Peter thought better of that, and asked the advice of the Angora cat. "Well, old Peter, by golly by heck, why not wear a bell round your neck?" Now that Angora cat had a sense of humor, as you can see. But his suggestion was not really Peter's cup of tea. And the more talking Peter did, of course, the more his voice became more hoarse. But he had to find the answer to his quest. And the answers he got, well, anyone could have guessed. It seems the cheapest thing on earth is advice, for what it's worth. Well, here it was, almost Easter time, with Peter talking less, gesturing in mime, when a chicken, the hen, the head of the coop, stopped silent Peter to give him her scoop. "As the one in charge, I really must say, we're laying as fast as we could for Easter Day. 1 billion eggs, more or less. But without your announcement, we've got ourselves a mess." "I realize the predicament that you're in," she said with a sly, chickeny little grin. "So all the girls got together to help you out. And what we have to offer is the solution, there is no doubt. I'll have the girls, the hens I mean, act as a sort of go-between. They're more than willing, it means that much, to give the announcement that special touch. You walk ahead the way you're supposed to do. We'll cackle behind, marching in step, 2 by 2. Now I'm talking about 1,000,000 if there's at least one hen who's willing to do this time and again. At least until your voice comes back, until you get back that what you lack. Well, Peter thought and thought real hard, sitting there in the chicken yard. Easter was now just a day away, and there was no chance, not any way, that he'd get his voice in proper shape, a fact of life he couldn't escape. And that's how come that Easter many years ago, before you and I remember, too long ago to know, was announced by 1,000,000 clucking feathered friends, with Peter leading silently. And so our story ends.
Peter Cottontail had an important job to announce love and good cheer. For one single day, Peter had to say Easter time was here. Peter Cottontail could never fail, even though he lost his voice. Peter Cottontail could never fail. Peter could never fail. He looked for help from his friends in the forest. When he found he lost his voice, he thought that they might help him do his job. You see, he had no choice. Peter Cottontail could never fail, even though he lost his voice. Peter Cottontail could never fail. Peter could never fail. After listening to suggestions, the hens made Peter understand that they could help him with his problem. With his announcement, they'd lend a hand. Now, Peter, you walk ahead of us like you're supposed to do, and we'll tackle behind you in a very straight line, marching in step, 2 by 2. Peter Cottontail could never fail, even though he lost his voice. But with the help of his clucking feather friends, Peter Cottontail wouldn't fail. He's Peter Cottontail.
So, that was Peter Cottontail for 1993. So, if you like, subscribe, share, and comment, and have a groovy day while another video coming out real soon.